Kakadosh Boker Tov. We're continuing with the halachot of Kriat Shema Hamita, which is Siman Resh Lametet. Now there's a very interesting question. How do we say or how do we recite the Kriat Shema Hamita? So here the Halacha B'ra brings down Mi'ikar Adin. You're permitted to recite Kriat Shema Hamita when you're lying down on your side completely, which means that you do not need to say it sitting down or standing up. However, though, you're not allowed to say it when you're only inclined to the side a little bit, and kol shekin all the more so, you're not allowed to say Kriyat Shema Hamita if you're lying on your back or on your stomach, because even without the Kriyat Shema, it is prohibited for a man to lie down on his stomach or on his back, as the Gemara brings down Masechet Berachot Daf Yud Gimel. Now, b'diavad, if you did read it that way, you are going to be Yotzei L'Chovah. However, though, now even though Mi'ikar Adin, we just mentioned that it is permitted to say it when you're lying down on your side, still it is proper, right? That's what it says here. Nachon yoter, it is proper to say it when you're sitting down or when you're standing up, in order to say it with kavanah. And he says, and also in order that you shouldn't fall asleep in the middle. And also according to Dat Rabboteinu Mekubalim, you should also be careful to say it whether it's you're sitting down or standing up. And in any circumstances, you should try to say with kavanah karaui, with a proper kavanah. You shouldn't be removing or changing your clothing, taking off your shoes, or doing other things when you're doing this Kriyat Shema. So that's halacha number one. Halacha number two, which is interesting, is that we do not recite a bracha for Kriyat Shema Hamita, which means certain mitzvot we institute a bracha. But there's many different reasons why we don't do a brachot. Some people say that you would only do a bracha if you didn't say Kriyat Shema beforehand. But if you already said Kriyat Shema for the night time, which means that you said it in the proper time, so now you wouldn't say it. Other people say that they never instituted a bracha for Kriyat Shema Hamita, because Kriyat Shema Hamita is only for shmirah, for protection. And therefore they never instituted a special bracha for protection. If a person, right, there's other reasons also brought down, but now we're going to go to the last halacha, which is, what happens if a person cannot fall asleep? So after reading Kriyat Shema Hamita, and he sees that he still didn't, right, fall asleep, so therefore what he could do is that he's allowed to read Kriyat Shema a few times until he falls asleep. Or if he wants, he could just think in Divrei Torah, and he's not chayav to read Kriyat Shema again, as long as he's sleeping from Divrei Torah. Now some people say, according to the Mekubalim, what you're supposed to think about is Ana v'choach, the entire Ana v'choach until you fall asleep. However, though, that which we just said, that you could read Kriyat Shema, you're allowed to read the Kriyat Shema even with Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Now why? Because you're saying the entire paragraph. So since you're saying the entire paragraph, so therefore, right, you're allowed to actually say from the beginning until the end. And you're allowed to do that a few times even. Now usually, right, in normal circumstances, you're not allowed to do that unless you do the entire 3 paragraphs. So for example, right now, I want to say Kriyat Shema. So can I just repeat Kriyat Shema? Can I just start from Shema Yisrael until En Ve'avta? So usually not, even if I wanted to repeat it a few times. I would have to say all 3 parashiyot, right, which is until the end, in order to do that. However, though here, since it's going to be for Shemirah, it's for protection from the mazikin, and we want that a person should sleep within the words of Divrei Torah, so therefore they were lenient that even if you're only going to do the first paragraph, and you're doing Shema Yisrael, Baruch Shem, Ve'avta, you're doing over and over and over until finally you fall asleep, you're allowed to do that, right? And it's not going to go against the halacha because they were lenient to do with Kriyat Shema Hamita.